Hi, boys and girls. It's Miss Perkins. We're about to go ahead and jump right into our book of the day. So, our book of the day is But Not Buddy. This book is by Christopher Paul Curtis. He also wrote the book The Watsons Go to Birmingham. So, those two books go hand in hand together and they also cross each other. So, before we get started with the book, we're going to make some quick predictions about what we think this story is going to be about. So, we have a young man here that has a suitcase. What do you guys think is inside this suitcase? And why is it so special to him, maybe? Or is it special to him? Is it clothes in here? Is it personal belongings to him? Is it maybe a suitcase for somebody else and he's giving it to him? So I wonder what is so special to this young man about this suitcase. Also, here we have two jazz players in the back. So is it because this happened during the Harlem Renaissance periods, or is he about to attend a jazz concert, or maybe jazz is his favorite type of music? So, based upon this cover, what time period do you all think this book possibly took place? Ooh. Okay, let's go ahead and get started. Chapter 1. Here we go again. We were all standing in line waiting for breakfast when one of the caseworkers came in and tap, tap, tap down the line. Uh-oh, this meant bad news. Either they found a foster home for somebody or somebody was about to get paddled. All the kids watched the woman as she moved along the line, her high-heeled shoes sounding like the little firecrackers going off on the wooden floor. Shoot! She stopped at me and said, "Are you Buddy Caldwell?" I said, "It's Bud, not Buddy, ma'am." She put her hand on the shoulder and took me out of the line. Then she pulled Jerry, one of the little boys, over. "Aren't you Jerry Clark?" He nodded. "Boys, good news. Now that the school year has ended, you both have been accepted in new temporary care homes starting this afternoon." Jerry asked the same thing I was thinking. "Together?" She said, "Why no, Jerry. You'll be in a family with three little girls." Jerry looked like he just found out they were going to dip him in a pot of boiling milk. "And Bud?" She looked at some paper she was holding. "Oh, yes, the Amoses. You'll be with Mr. and Mrs. Amos and their son, who's 12 years old. That makes him just 2 years older than you, doesn't it, Bud?" "Yes, ma'am," she said. "I'm sure you'll both be very happy." Me and Jerry looked at each other. The woman said, Now, boys, no need to look so glum. I know you don't understand what it means, but there's a depression going on all over this country. People can't find jobs, and these are very, very difficult times for everybody. We've been lucky enough to find two wonderful families who open their doors for you. I think it's best that we show our new foster families that we're very. She dragged out the word very, waiting for us to finish her sentence for her. Jerry said, cheerful, helpful, and grateful. I moved my lips and mumbled. She smiled and said, "Unfortunately, you won't have time for breakfast. I have a couple pieces of fruit put in the bag. In the meantime, go to the sleep room and strip your beds and gather all of your things." Here we go again. I felt like I was walking in my sleep as I followed Jerry back to the room where all the boys' beds were jammed together. Jam. So, boys and girls, let's take a minute and think. What does jam together mean? So, are the beds like a bunk bed type of style? Are the beds lined up in one row? What do you guys think the word jam together means? This was the third foster home I was going to, and I was supposed to be packing up and leaving. But it still surprised me that there are always a few seconds right after they tell you got to go when my nose gets all runny and my throat gets all choky and my eyes gets all stingy. But the tears coming out doesn't happen to me anymore. I don't know when it first happened, but it seems like my eye doesn't cry no more. Jerry sat on his bed, and I could tell that he was losing the fight not to cry. Tears were popping out of his eyes and slipping down his cheeks. I sat down next to him and said, I know being in a house with three girls doesn't sound terrible, Jerry, but it's a lot better than being with a boy who's a couple of years older than you. I'm the one who's going to have problems. An older boy is going to want to fight, but those little girls are going to want to treat you real good. They're going to treat you like some kind of special pet or something. Jerry said, "You really think so?" I said, "I'll trade you in a minute." The worst thing that's going to happen to you is that they're going to make you play house a lot. They'll probably make you be the baby and will hug on you and do this kind of junk to you. I tickled Jerry on his chin and said, Gaga, goo goo, baby, waba. Jerry couldn't help but smile. I said, "You're going to be great." Jerry looked like he wasn't so scared anymore, so I went over to my bed and started getting ready. So, if you were Bud and you were placed in a foster home that you know nothing about, how would you feel? Would you feel nervous, or what would you expect going into this type of circumstance? Even though it was me who was in a lot of trouble, I couldn't help but feel sorry for Jerry. Not only because he was going to have to live around three girls, but also because being 6 is a real rough age to be at. So, when you were 6 years old, do you feel like that was a rough age for you all as well? Or was it an easy age, maybe? Who knows? Most folks think you start to be a real adult when you're 15 or 16 years old, but that's not true. It really starts when you're around 6. It's at 6 that grown folks don't think you're a cute little kid anymore. They talk to you and expect that you understand everything they mean, and you best to understand too if you aren't looking for some real trouble. Cause it's around 6 that grown folks stop giving you little swats and taps and jump clean up to giving you slugs that knock you right down, and have you seeing stars in the middle of the night. The first foster home I was taught that real quick. 6 is a bad time too because that's when some real scary things start to happen to your body. It's around then that your teeth start coming loose in your mouth. You wake up one morning and it seems like your tongue is the first one to notice that something strange is going on. Because as soon as you get up there, it's pushing and rubbing up against one of your front teeth, and you'll be doggone if that tooth isn't a little bit wiggly. At first, you think it's kind of funny, but the tooth keeps getting looser and looser and looser. And one day, in the middle of pushing the tooth back and forth and squinching your eyes shut, you'll pull it clean out. It's the scariest thing you could think of because you'll lose control of your tongue at the same time. And no matter how hard you try to stop it, it won't leave the new hole in your mouth alone. It keeps digging around in the spot where that tooth used to be. So, at what age where you are when you start losing your teeth and you start knowing, tooth fairies start leaving you money? Were you around 6 years old or around that time frame when that type of thing happened to you? Or what age was it when other things started happening to you? You tell some adult about what's going on, but all they do is say it's normal. You can't be too sure though, because it shakes you up a whole lot more than grown folks think it does when perfectly good parts of your own body commence to loosening up and falling off of you. Unless you're as stupid as a lamppost, you've got to wonder what's coming off next year. Your arm, your leg, your neck. Every morning when you wake up, it seems a lot of your body parts aren't stuck on as good as they used to be. 6 is real rough. That's how old I was when I came to live here in the home. That's how old I was when my mama died. I folded the blanket and the sheet and sent them back on the mattress. Then I reached under the bed to get my suitcase. Uh-oh, boys and girls, it's time for the suitcase. Most of the kids in the home keep their things in a paper or cloth sack, but not me. I have my own suitcase. I set it on the mattress and untied the twine that held it together. I did that. I did what I do every night before I go to sleep. I checked to make sure everything was there. That way, there are more and more kids coming into the home every day. I had to make sure no one had to run off with any of my things. First, I pulled my blanket. First, I pulled my blanket out and saw that everything was there like it was supposed to be. At the bottom of my suitcase were the flyers. I took the blue flyers out and looked at it again. The paper was starting to wear out from me looking at it so much, but I like checking to see if there was anything I hadn't noticed before. It was like something was telling me there was a message for me on this flyer, but I didn't have the decoder ring to read what it was. So, what do you guys think decoder ring is? Maybe you need to come back to that word, decoder. Across the top of the flyer, read in big black letters, were the words limited engagement. Then in little letters it said direct from an SRO engagement in New York City. Underneath that, in big letters again, it said Herman E. Calloway and the Dusky Devastators of the Depression. Those 6 exclamation points made it seem like this was the most important news anyone could think of. Seems like you'll have to really get great to deserve all this. And those exclamation points all stacked up in a row like that. Next, the paper said, Masters of the New Jazz. And in the middle of the flyer was a blurry picture of the man I have a good suspicion about. I've never met, but I had plenty of good feelings that this guy must be my father. In the picture, he's standing next to a giant fiddle that's taller than him. So do I have anyone in the classroom that is any musicians that know what a fiddle is? It looks like it's really heavy because he's leaning up against him, trying to hold him up. He looks like he's been doing this for a long time, and he must be tired because he had a droopy, dreamy look on his face. There are 2 men beside him, one playing the drums and the other one playing the horn. It wasn't hard to see what the guy who must be my father was like just by looking at this picture. You could tell he was a real quiet, real friendly, and a smart man. He had one of those kind of faces. Underneath the picture, someone had read in a black fountain pen, one night only in Flint, Michigan, at the luxurious Fifth Grand on Saturday, June 16th, 1932, 9 until. I remember my mama bringing this flyer with her when she came from working one day. I remember because she got very upset when she put it on the supper table, and kept looking at it and picking it up and putting it back and moving it around. I was only 6 then and couldn't understand why this got her so upset. And she kept 4 others that were a lot like it in her dressing table. But this one really got her jumpy. The only difference I could see between the blue one and the other one was that the others didn't say anything about Flint on them. I remember this blue one too, because it wasn't too long ago after she brought it home that I knocked on Mama's bedroom door and then I found her. I put the blue flyer back in the suitcase with the 4 other older ones and put everything back in its place. I went over to the big chest of drawers and took my other set of clothes out and put them in the suitcase too. I tied the twine back around my bag and went and sat on Jerry's bed with him. Jerry must have been thinking just as hard as I was, 'cause neither one of us said nothing. We just sat close enough so that our shoulders were touching. Here we go again. So, what do you guys think will happen next? So, we already know that Bud is about to meet his new family. He's just opened up his suitcase. He's reminiscing about catching seeing the flyers in his mom room. So, what do you guys think chapter 2 will be about? So, how do you guys think chapter 2 will start off? So, let's go ahead and begin our activity.